I did a studio interview recently where they didn't just ask me questions, they kind of gave me this whole brief. They said, there's a lanyard phone case, make a full animation, you've got a day, story, and all. So I sat down at the studio, built it out, lit it, animated it, tried to get it to feel like a real piece of work in this entire full day, and it was hard. A full concept in a day is kind of crazy. I thought they were testing my rendering skills and everything else, but afterward they told me what they were actually looking for, which was speed, originality, and communication. And they said they didn't tell me up front because they wanted to see if I'd naturally hit those things. And honestly, that's why I'm telling this story, because that whole bit at the end stuck with me big time. The brief itself wasn't crazy complicated. It was a product, a lanyard phone case, and it was making something interesting out of something simple in a single day. But that's where it got really tough, honestly. We had to make fast decisions. You can't overthink, even though I still did. You have to commit to an idea and push it, which was really tough. And honestly, it came out decent, but not my best work ever, of course, because it was in a single day. But what I didn't realize at the time was that they weren't watching the final render. Honestly, they were watching how I got there and taking big note of how I was actually responding to them. So the first thing that they mentioned was speed, not chaotic speed, iteration speed. They said one of the biggest bottlenecks in studios is artists taking too long to get to that full rough draft version. They don't want perfection on version 1. They want something that they can actually respond to, which again is crazy. That hit me super hard. I knew speed was important, but I wasn't thinking number one over everything. But because a lot of us think quality is what gets us hired. But at a studio, momentum is the whole currency. It's what they can actually track at the end of the day. If you can get something on screen, feedback can start faster, and that's how the real work all gets made anyway. But the kind of crazier bit was this next one, the originality. And so what they did at one point was they asked me if I'd modeled a rock in this animation that I made, and I was like, well, no, it's a rock. I got it online for free, which is a totally normal thing to do, pretty much what you would think that everyone else would do. And they were understanding of that, but actually they wanted me to build it out, or at least know that I could build it out in this whole experiment, which is the whole point to them. And so that was really fascinating too. They talked about the legality, they talked about originality, but the fact that I didn't build this rock was kind of a big deal to them. And that again stuck with me because so many people, obviously myself included, wouldn't think twice about building a rock. But if the client could potentially get sued by somebody whose rock model or whatever, even if that is not likely or less than a 1% chance of ever happening, it's kind of still a big deal. So I thought that was really fascinating. I think also it goes into a little bit of what they can sell. Obviously, if you're saying that these artists are working night and day to create something original for your brand, like that makes sense, obviously. And maybe big clients would expect that more. But it was at this point in the full conversation that I started realizing another big aspect to this whole thing, which was communication. They said one of their struggles, actually, is not knowing how to implement feedback properly. So a senior artist gave me notes like push this forward or make it feel more alive, more fluid, more energetic. And if you don't know how to interpret that clearly, everything slows down. Even if you got to the rough draft quickly, if you can't communicate with the overall vision, you're dead in the water. Speed without communication just creates faster mistakes. And originality without communication turns into a giant ego battle where we're all just combating with each other. They were testing whether or not I could move quickly, make meaningful choices, and just adjust without resistance. And that's what being a midweight artist, designer at a big studio really means. Not just skill, but actual personal maturity. But in the end, it just didn't work out. It was in mid London, and I'm out in the home counties, so it just was more of a struggle to try and make things work. But I really enjoyed this whole experience and was super happy to come out with these big insights. I really liked this studio a lot because they worked with really big names, but they also used Blender throughout their entire pipeline, which I think this was the only studio that I applied to that actually could say that. And so I've been working on that a lot lately. I've been working on the biggest ways to improve my own speed, iteration. Obviously, if you've seen some of my last videos, it's been non-stop go, and that is a huge part in because of my relationship with Rokoko, who's the sponsor of this video. Yet again, one of the biggest ways I've been able to improve my own speed, obviously, is through motion capture, and that has been so fun and so exciting. Obviously, with Rokoko, I don't have to wait on animation. I don't have to hand animate anything. Basically, whatever I can perform, I can do, which has been both exciting and kind of scary at the same time. But if I get feedback from a client, it just takes me a few minutes to actually go in and just re-record it. So it's been really fun. It reduces friction. It's less that you have on the client, obviously, but as far as speed and originality go, Rokoko is much faster, obviously, than hand animating. And originality, as far as originality is concerned, your own body movement is always going to be yours. And so, in thinking about all this, Rokoko is a really natural progression if you're trying to develop yourself as an artist. So definitely consider using my code in the description to get some Rokoko gear. It's definitely worth it. So obviously, just to kind of wrap this up, if you're looking to get hired or land clients, just level up in general, try and maybe ask yourself, can you get to version 1 faster? Do you understand your fundamentals enough to adapt the modeling, texturing, everything? Can you take feedback without getting defensive if maybe you're on a team of artists? Speed will get you in a lot of rooms. Obviously, your portfolio will get you in a lot of rooms, and your originality makes you interesting. But ultimately, what I've learned is that the communication that you have and the quality of your communication is what's going to ultimately keep you in whatever room that you want to stay in. So think about that. If you're interested in this kind of stuff, real studio lessons, creative business breakdowns, I send out a free email every week, and I am sharing as I go. Obviously, this was a big one, so I'm really excited to continue to share stuff like this, and all the links to that are down below. Definitely consider checking it out. I have also free assets that I send out weekly too. So there's tons and tons of free stuff in the newsletter, and I will try to keep you up to date with all the fun things that I'm working on. So definitely give that a look, and I will see you next week.